Welcome to another episode of I Catch Killers. On I Catch Killers, we explore the world of crime from all perspectives. Crime is not one-dimensional, and as we all know, sometimes life choices take people down a path they never expected. Today's guest has agreed to take us on a deeply personal journey. It's a story of how her childhood anxieties led her to dependence on alcohol because it made her feel normal. It was that dependency that led her to a lifestyle of working in bars, which led to dancing and stripping in those bars. She started working in King's Cross and developing a cocaine habit. To support that habit, she started selling drugs. Then one day, there was a knock at the door. It was the police. She walked out of her home under arrest in a nightie and hoodie and went straight to jail for a number of years. She felt worthless, but while wasting away in prison, she decided to look at life in a different way. She saw beauty in the world and through her art found a sense of worth and a career as a tattoo artist. As you'll find with her story, it's not easy to turn your life around, but she did. And now she's using her experiences to help other women who might be going down the wrong path. Today's guest is a very cool lady who has a real powerful story to tell, and I'm looking forward to our chat. Alison Colquitt, welcome to I Catch Killers.
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure, Alison. Thanks for coming in. It's first up, I just want to talk about when we talk prisoners, ex-prisoners that you are, we don't think women.
No, generally not. They're quite overlooked, I think, in the system.
And what do you put that down to?
Probably the numbers. I think it's something like 97% men.
Yeah.
It may only, or it's 93% men, something like that. But the percentage of women in the system is really small. So they're often overlooked in lots of ways. In the media, I think, lately there's been a little more interest, probably due to the shows, I think, Wentworth and Orange is the New Black and things like that.
Yeah, okay.
There is a little bit more interest, but that's a little bit superficial. I think all in all, like in correctives and in the system, they are overlooked. And the areas that I have seen it myself is things like, female prisoners don't get access to exercise equipment like the men do. And female prisoners don't get to eat a specialised diet. They just eat what the men eat. So they tend to put on a lot of weight and stuff while they're inside. So there's like all these little areas where they just get lumped in with the men. Yeah. And it really should be separate, I think.
It's almost like they're invisible, isn't it? And I'm thinking from my point of view, because I think prisoners, and my mind goes straight to it's like an unconscious bias that I have that goes straight to the male prisoner or ex-prisoner. Yeah,
it's majority of that would be probably to do with just how many, the sheer number of male offenders there are. But, the female prisoner numbers in this country have grown over the last sort of 5 to 10 years. It's skyrocketed to the point where it's become like a real issue. The UN was looking at it, even saying, why are women being arrested and incarcerated on such massive numbers? What's going on? And in that, Indigenous female Australian women became the most incarcerated Indigenous on the planet. Highest representation on the planet. Yeah, so that was pretty concerning, and there was like lots of reports written about it, but nothing really has happened.
Nothing gets done.
Yeah.
What's your take on it? Why do you think there's more women in prison now than, say, 10 years ago?
I think there's a couple of factors. Yeah. I think the trend towards privatisation of prisons is actually not, I think that is actually it's not encouraging the community and the system to invest in rehabilitation. So there's no incentive to keep people out of prison, because with privatisation...
It's just easier. We can build more prisons and put more people in.
With privatisation, it's a business. Yeah. There's no incentive to reduce recidivism, because then we're not going to make money. So that's one thing I think the trend towards privatisation has probably been an issue. The other thing I think... possibly over-policing. Yeah. For example, I went to prison for my first ever arrest. So my first ever charge, and, on paper, I was a clean slate, and they sent me to jail. So there's that sort of stuff.
I must admit, and we'll talk in obviously more detail about that later on in the podcast, but that's something that jumped out at me when I was researching your story and reading some of the articles about you, that you jumped straight into the deep end, didn't you?
Yeah.
It's
They threw the book at me.
yeah. We'll talk about that. But look, we've started you off straight in prison. Let's get you out of prison for a sec. Let's talk life before prison. So tell me about your childhood.
Yeah, so I grew up in Coffs Harbour, so just west of Coffs Harbour, in a little town called Glenray, which is pretty much not even on the map. It's that
Strangely,
small.
I know it well.
You do?
Yeah. I spent a lot of time up there working.
Did you?
Up around Bowraville and inland from Coffs
As a
Harbour.
cop?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, there's a lot of big weed farms up there, I know. Yeah.
I didn't work in the drug squad, but
right.
yeah, I do remember the. It's around this time of year, wasn't it, that they got raided where the plants were coming to?
Oh, there was heaps.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, there was big drug raids, like, throughout my childhood. I can remember at least 2 where the choppers would come in and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a beautiful part of the world, though. It's like when I was in Wales overseas, it reminded me of home. So that's obviously why they called it New South Wales, because it looks just like that. It's beautiful. It's lush. It's green. There's mountains and valleys, and there's mist in the morning. There's like fog in the valleys. It's just beautiful.
Yeah.
So that's where I grew up. And yeah, there's some shady characters around. Like my dad used to say that people move to the country when they want to get away from something. And that was certainly something I witnessed growing up, was shady characters. There was quite a few of them in the town that I grew up. But there was also a lot of, alcohol and drug use and abuse going on with people, the adults around me, a lot of that. So I grew up with that kind of stuff being normalized, like smoking weed and drinking to excess, like constantly, like that was really normal.
The binge drinking culture. And,
yeah. And it was, the men would always have a stubby in their hand, often the women would smoke dope, and it was just really normal, and parties and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The adults were always partying. So it was just something that people did growing up. So I guess, my childhood was both happy and idyllic and free.
Yeah.
But also, there was periods of violence and trauma. And there was also periods where I would feel really alone, and also just wanting to get the out of there.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to swear?
Yes.
Okay.
You can swear.
So
no, we won't go beep, beep.
Okay,
no,
good. So there was times where I just wanted to get the out, and I can remember as a child, just sort of.
At what age was that you were thinking? Get me
I can remember being really little. So, I mean, this is a bit sad, but there was a washing basket that my dad has, which I used to hide in as a kid, and it's really small.
Yeah.
So I saw that at his house recently.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, that's a small washing basket. But so I must have been about 4.
Yeah.
And that was one of my little hiding spots that I would go in there and I would just wish that I was somewhere else.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was probably about 4, I'd say.
Okay.
And
did you have siblings?
I do. I have 2 sisters.
Yeah.
Yeah, one older, one younger. But I've always had this, I don't know, like a fire inside. There's a word for it. It's called baraka.
Yeah.
It comes from the Moroccan culture, and it means someone who has a fire in their belly.
Yeah.
And I've always had that, and
Is that anger or passion, or
I think it's passion.
Yep.
It got caught up in anger for quite a few years, but I was always my dad would come home drunk and I would challenge him.
Yeah.
I'd stand up to him. I'd break his stuff. I would when he would physically assault us, I would put myself in there. I would just put myself right there so that it would be me that would take the hit, so my sisters wouldn't get hurt. So it was I was always challenging him. I was a little kid and he was 6'4" man.
Yeah.
And I would be putting myself right there. And whenever I was in that space, it would just make that fire within me burn even brighter. I would just get more and more and more determined to not break. So I always had that in me,
Spirited.
Yeah, very spirited, yeah. And so I guess, Yeah, and there was stuff going on at school as well, but I don't know. It just sort of built something within me that I would just I don't know, very spirited.
In one of the articles that you had done, and it was a great article, very revealing about the type of person, but there was a couple of quotes in there. If I could read them out, and we talk about that. I was quite bright at school, but I suffered then from what I know now was anxiety. Back then, I didn't have a name for it. I was just odd and found it hard to build strong personal relationships. I became a very angry child and I had trouble with authority. I simply didn't have the skills necessary to successfully navigate this thing called life.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And that's basically what happened. I did have anxiety. I had a fear. Anxiety is born of a deep fear. And I had a fear of men, angry men.
And is that, do you think, you'd attribute that to what you saw with your father when he was drunk?
And also I had a teacher at school who was an alcoholic and he was also abusive. So I would go to school and I would be confronted with this, angry, screaming man, and then I'd go home and it would be the same. So it's kind of like my early years were just that was what men were.
Yeah.
I didn't really have any other blueprint. And I became not so afraid, but just defiant in their presence. And there was a deep fear, but I was rebelling at the same time.
Yeah.
So, I was really bright. My mum calls it precocious.
That's a good word.
Yeah.
Or others might say smart ass.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
So I was a smart ass. I used to find joy in pissing these people off, these angry men. I knew if I could get to them, I'd get a little chuckle out of it, and then they'd whip my ass. But it was like,
Your victory.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thrill seeker.
Yeah.
How was your mum in your relationship with your mum in all this? Did she play a prominent part in your childhood?
Yes. So my mum was, she's a beautiful woman. She's got a big heart. She's very loving. But my mum has her own issues, like she's got mental health stuff and whatnot going on, and she's had her own past. So she dealt with what was going on the best way she knew how. And I can see now, looking back, my mum was afraid too.
Yeah.
My mum was afraid. She was isolated. And so she just did the best that she could do with what she had. And so her way of dealing with it was that she would just go silent, and she would just turn her eye to what was going on, because I think that she just thought, well, if I just get on with things, if I just do the dishes and whatever, it'll all go away and it'll all settle down and we can just start a new day tomorrow. And so.
Sadly, that's the way a lot of people, and I'll say women, because the majority of women deal with that aggressive, violent behaviour at home. Ignore it and it'll go away, or it won't inflame the situation.
Yes. And she didn't, I don't think my mum was interested in putting herself in between him and us, because then that could possibly put her in, I don't know.
It's sad, really. It's almost like their spirit has been broken.
Yeah.
That they haven't, they're too worthless to stand up.
I felt like that. I think my mum's spirit was very diminished during those years. She did a great job with us, kids, and she always found ways to bring joy into our lives. She was very creative, my mother. She found her own creative outlet during those years, and she would always, she was a preschool teacher, so she'd bring home all this craft and art stuff. She always found ways for us to express ourselves, and she managed, even when there was no money, my mum always managed to have a good, healthy meal on the table. She always managed, there were times when she was, selling cakes and cookies at the local store just so that we had money to do stuff. She was good. She was a survivor, my mum.
Yeah, that's a good way of describing people like that. They do what they have to do to survive.
Yeah.
And so your teenage years, did you have a sense, did you get yourself into trouble in your teenage years?
I mean, yes. Yeah, I did.
We all got ourselves into trouble in teenage years.
At school, I was constantly getting pulled up for things like disrupting class, for fighting, things like that. I got into punch-ons with boys, mostly with boys, and I got pulled into the principal's offices a few times for that. I was getting into trouble.
A wild child.
I was angry.
Yeah.
By this point, that anger had bubbled to the surface, and I was angry at everyone. I was angry at the teachers, anyone who was authority figure. I would challenge them. I would ask why. People don't like to be asked why by teenagers. They just want to be respected, and they don't.
This is what I'm saying.
I deserve your respect just for existing. And I thought,
Yeah.
no, you fucking don't.
Yeah.
So I was a pain in the ass during
Yeah.
high school. All at the same time, I was very bright.
Yeah.
So I had the teachers that could see that. They would pull me aside and be like, you've got such potential. They'd use all these words like potential, and you can do so much if only you would just behave. And I'm thinking, yeah, but like, I'd gotten to this point where I'd just given up thinking that any adult, like I just sort of figured them out, that they had no clue what they were doing.
Yeah.
And that scared me. So I felt like I just had to go and, I was very self-reliant by this point in my life. I felt like I had to I was on my own.
Did you have close friends? Did you have close friendships?
Yeah, I did. By this point, I'd gotten into alcohol as well. I got into alcohol really young. So
what age are we talking?
Like 13.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like I'd been drinking, my dad's beers and stuff. And then my friends and I would go out and get pissed on weekends. And whenever one of the parents would go away, we'd all go to their house and get on the goon and all that. So, I'd already gotten into cigarettes and alcohol. I think I had my first cigarette at 12, and then I was drinking by 13. So like that was our hobby.
Yeah.
That was all of our resources were focused on trying to get alcohol and cigarettes. And then it became marijuana, and it was just like, the old story.
Yeah. And was that just a country town? Were you rebelling because you felt like you're isolated from the rest of the world? Or?
Look, that's what we did, because that's what everyone around us did.
Yeah.
It wasn't like we saw what was going on in the city and thought, oh, we're missing out. We just did what all the older kids did. So all the older kids, the kids at 16, 17, 18 in our town, that's what they did. All the parents in our town, that's what they did. So we just were doing what everyone else did. Yeah. And it was like I didn't have an example of a grown up or a teenager that wasn't doing that.
Yeah.
So it was just very normal.
That's interesting. Did you finish high school in the town?
Yeah, so I graduated grade 10 in Coffs Harbour, and then they had this school called Coffs Harbour Education Campus where you could apply to go there, and if you got accepted, you could do grade 11 and 12 there. Right. And I was appealed to that because there was no uniform.
A little bit more freedom.
Yeah, you were allowed to smoke cigarettes.
Yep.
You called your teachers by their first name. It was a very grown-up adult learning environment. So I was like, yeah, that's me. And it was mainly the cigarette thing that I wanted to go there. I don't know. But
it's funny because I remember back to school and the kids that smoked, that set you on the path, didn't it?
Yeah.
Because you had to wag, you had to do
ridiculous.
this. You had to, it's funny. But so did you get accepted?
Yeah, I did. I aced the interview. I got accepted, and I went there and graduated grade 12 at that place. And I actually really had a good experience there. And
did that settle you down, the anger issues? Or
No.
Okay.
It didn't, but I did make a really nice group of friends there.
Yeah.
We were all drinking and partying. By this point, I'd started to get into ecstasy and the rave scene. I started to go to like doofs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so it exacerbated all of that because I found my tribe,
Yeah.
But at the same time, just on the educational side of things, I think that format really worked for a lot of young people.
Yep.
I think that's a great format.
Different style of learning.
Absolutely. Yep. I think it's still really, really a powerful way to engage those kids that otherwise may have just not finished. So, I'm glad I did finish. And then I went to Queensland and did TAFE.
Yeah.
So,
What did you do at TAFE? Did you have any aspirations or any
I
idea
wanted to be, I knew I wanted to be an artist.
Yep.
But I didn't know what kind of job an artist could do.
Yeah.
So I just enrolled in an art school. It was like a TAFE run program, but a separate art school in Queensland, in Brisbane. And I pretty much left home, like, I think it was a few weeks after my 18th birthday. I just went off to Queensland not knowing anybody.
Right.
I just packed my shit and left.
And how did you feel about that? Did you feel, okay, this is the start of my life, or what was going through your head, or were you scared?
I was excited, and I was really excited to get out of Coffs Harbour and just start my life.
Yeah.
But I can remember, like, I think it was the night before, a couple of nights before I left, my mum having this full-on breakdown. Like, she was, like, crying, and she not very good at expressing herself or explaining what she was crying about. But I can remember that. She was really scared for me.
Yep.
And I think I know why now. You know, she was afraid because of what's out there in the world. And I think she could see that I was completely...
What path you follow.
Yeah. And completely unprepared.
Yeah.
Mentally and emotionally for what's out there. But they were, you know, I was about to leave. That was it. No turning back. So, I could see that my mum was pretty scared.
So how was your Queensland experience?
So I didn't last long at school.
Yeah.
I went up there, I don't know how long, maybe a few months, and I dropped out, and that was it. I was off. Like, started working, making money, partying full time, basically.
And
I just wanted to have fun. I just wanted to have a good time, and that was it. I lived in Brisbane. I lived in a condemned building. My friend and I basically found the cheapest apartment that we could find so that we had more money for like drinking and partying. And this building got like condemned to be knocked down, and we were just living in it with like, there was just junkies and stuff everywhere, and it was just this disgusting squat. And like, we used to just throw shit off the balcony and just burn stuff. Like, it was bad.
Yeah.
But we lived there, and like, I think my parents came to visit once, and they were just
they would have been mortified.
Yeah. We barely had furniture. Like, we were just living like punks. Like, it was bad. But I don't know. I think they just thought, well, whatever. She's doing her thing. And I lived there for a while, and then I met a guy and moved to the Gold Coast.
Yep.
To be with him. And that was my first kind of experience of like falling head over heels in love with someone. And I guess now looking back, I can see that it was teenage, you know, infatuation, or like, you know, young love. It's not really love. It's obsession.
Yeah.
And it was projecting kind of a lot of insecurities that I had and the way I felt about myself onto this other person, like they were going to fix me, you know. So you know, what I thought was love was just this really deep infatuation. And like, when I think about it now, I felt like I did. I projected all of my worries, problems, and internal pain onto this guy, hoping that his love, and I'm putting inverted commas around that, would heal me. And so there was a lot of pressure on this relationship.
And what was there something about him? Was he living a straight life?
No, he was a party boy. He was a BMX rider. He was a punk. He was like super like rough around the edges, and I thought he was just like so dreamy. I'm pretty sure I met him in a pub and just like dragged him home with me. Like, there was nothing like, I don't know. Yeah, I just...
Wasn't a slow build up. It
was like I met him one day, and then that was it. We were together the next, and then we were just inseparable, and we just drank and partied and smoked weed, and we were toxic, and we would fight and scream in the street and break up and then get back together. Like, it was completely ridiculous and messy. And he was really...
You've got to love those toxic relationships.
Yeah.
I think most people have been in them at some stage in their life.
Like, if I saw someone on the street behaving like we used to behave, I would look at them and go, oh my God.
Oh, wake up to yourself.
Yeah, like, oh, can you not? And now I remember doing that. I remember being that unhinged, you know. Looking back on my life, I realise now that I had a lot of mental health issues that were not being addressed.
Yeah.
Probably from a really early age.
Yep.
I think they'd probably hopefully pick them up on someone nowadays.
Yeah.
But in those days, it was just, oh, she's just off the rails, you know. But like, people who are mentally well and sound, they don't behave like that.
Yeah.
The way I was behaving, you know. I was
reckless.
I was reckless. I was deeply insecure. I was probably having PTSD of some sort, you know, crippling anxiety. Like, I was a mess.
Yeah. So is it a low self-esteem?
Very low. But you would never know it. Like I would never identify that in myself. If someone said, have you got low self-esteem? I'd be like, no, I'm fine.
Yeah, I can just
see and I've
the
got
tone and the attitude.
Yeah. I'm fine.
Who are you?
Who the are you? Like, you know, I had no idea what was going on internally. I didn't even have the awareness around my self to check in on that.
Yeah.
I was just surviving, you know. Yeah.
So where did that beautiful relationship go to?
Well, tragically, we broke up.
Oh, no. I never saw that coming.
Yeah, and then not long after we broke up, he actually took his own life.
Oh.
Yeah, and then that shattered me.
Yeah.
It absolutely shattered me, and I, you know, spiraled really badly after that.
Did you blame yourself for that?
I did. I blame myself, but I also saw it coming.
Yeah.
Like, I actually wrote him a letter not long after we broke up and said, you know, I had a dream that I was at your funeral.
Yeah.
Like, he was very self-destructive. Yeah, and then I kind of wasn't surprised when I heard, but I was very lucky that I did get to go to the funeral, and I'm really glad I got to say goodbye. And then, you know, that completely broke me,
Yeah.
and it destroyed me.
So what age are we talking?
I was 19.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Pretty young to take all this on.
yeah.
Yeah.
So having that experience completely changed everything. Like it just, what I think it did is that it validated my suspicion that people were f***ed, life was f***ed, and this whole thing, life was just something to be endured.
Yeah.
And it was just all pain and misery and just and so that experience really solidified that belief in me.
Validated the way that you were living your life going, well, this is all life deserves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just didn't have any kind of hope that anything good would ever happen to me because it was just one horrible thing after another. And so I was just living this kind of, you know, nihilistic existence.
Yeah.
And, you know, when he passed, it just sort of solidified that lifestyle.
Was there anyone in your life that was there, had the potential to pull you aside and go, hey, Ali, wake up to yourself. You're going down this path. I can see it.
No.
Yeah.
So like my family, like I love them dearly, but we just don't have that kind of family that has emotional awareness. We're not that sort of family that sit down and talk about our emotions and feelings. We're very, it's very that British stiff upper lip type, you know, keep calm, carry on, and we don't talk about our feelings, and it's just that kind of
so many people fall through the gaps because of that.
Yes,
it's just turn
absolutely.
your head away. Let's not talk about it. I don't want to talk about it, and no one deals with all the issues.
Like only up until recently, we've been saying like "I love you" or whatever. We even have like a little colloquial term that we use for that because it's too hard to actually say the words, you know. So our family's always been like that, and so when he passed, you know, my older sister turned up at my house, and that was her way of saying I'm here for you. She brought me some vodka, you know, and that was like we didn't talk about it.
Yeah,
but they were there, you know, or my sister was there.
I know exactly what you're saying. I've seen it.
Yeah,
I've lived it. Yeah,
yeah. It's really sad.
Yeah.
Because I think at that point what I really needed was someone to be like, okay, well, this is what you do when someone passes, someone that you love.
Yeah.
This is how you grieve. And
you're going to grieve, and there's going to be stages. And
what I needed was someone to actually just walk me through the grieving process and let me know that it was really normal.
Yeah.
But what I got was everyone around me being too afraid to kind of mention it. Don't say his name like it was friggin' Voldemort or something. It was like, don't mention it because you'll set her off. And everyone was like tiptoeing around me like eggshells, and you know, even like I started dating this other guy, and he would even just like take detours when we were driving so that I wouldn't have to go past like any of the spots that I would used to haunt with him, like, you know, triggers. Yeah. So it was all very unhealthy. And so in the consequence of that was that I had an unresolved grief that I carried around with me for several years.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until recently that I actually got to properly process it and deal with it. And that's why I'm able to talk about it now.
Well, it's interesting talking to you now because you seem like the most emotionally in touch, aware person you could possibly get. But back then, I suppose we're talking Ali at 19.
I was
totally unaware.
No idea.
Yeah. So where to from there?
Oh, okay. So, so I went pretty much straight into an emotionally abusive relationship after that with a guy who was a complete narcissist, very toxic, and my self-esteem hit an all-time low when I started dating this guy, and it was an emotional roller coaster over about 4 years of on and off. And
what he could just do what he wanted, abuse you or whatever, and you'd come back to him?
It was like he never physically abused me, but I just disclaimer, like abuse is not just physical abuse.
Yeah.
I grew up thinking that that's what abuse was.
Yeah, well, most people thought.
Yeah, and I didn't realise until I actually went to rehab in my 30s that abuse is all kinds of stuff. So it can be emotional, it can be physical, it can be financial, it can be... Abuse has many, many faces.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, and I thought, well, he doesn't hit me, he doesn't smash my head into walls, so he's a great guy.
Yeah.
But what was happening was, bit by bit, day by day, my soul was just being chipped away by the emotional and psychological abuse that I was enduring from this guy, and it was to the point where, like, by the time I finally got away from him, like, I didn't give a whether I lived or died. I just didn't care.
How did that play out? Did he like abuse you or just degrade you, or what?
Yeah, it was degrading comments. It was saying things like, like we would be at a dinner table in front of like loads of people, and I would make a comment and he'd look at me and go, "Oh, you're so fucking ridiculous," or he'd say, "You'll never do that," like, or call me out or put me on show.
Putting you down.
Yeah, put downs in public, to the point where it would make other people uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like people would cringe at the stuff and I would just retreat into myself.
Yeah.
So constant belittling, constant put downs, constantly breaking me apart little bit by little bit. And that was just like daily. And then, yeah, like my spirit was just completely crushed by the time I finally got away from him.
Yep. Did you make the decision to leave that relationship?
It was like crawling. It was like clawing out of a hole.
Yeah.
And so I just grabbed onto the first thing I could find, and that was when I entered working as a dancer.
Right.
So I had a friend who was dancing, and she started to tell me about it, and it seemed so empowering. And I actually got a job behind the bar in the place where she was working. And
right. Was this in Brisbane?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this guy, I think he cheated on me or something, like really publicly, and like just shamed me. And I was just in this in the midst of this horrible spiral of one of my low points with this guy. And I got this job in a strip club, and it just, all the women just seemed like they had their shit together. Like obviously they didn't, like not all of them did, but what happened was I saw like a way out. Yeah. If I can just get money and I can get my own place and I can get the away from this guy, and I don't need you.
We were talking the other day and you said when you got into the dancing and stripping that it was empowering for you. That, is it, and what I'm trying to understand here is that you had control of your life now. Is that what we're talking about with the empowerment?
Yeah, I think a lot of women are probably stuck in it where they are because of, financial pressure is a huge thing. Yeah. It's not just easy to just, you've got not a lot of experience behind you and a shattered self-esteem to just walk in, put on a suit and walk into a job interview and be like, hire me, I'm fabulous. Like that's just not going to happen. Yeah. So for me, the financial stuff played a big part of it. Like I had no financial freedom. I had no, anything. So, getting that job and starting working as a dancer, it gave me so much confidence, and it gave me so much, it did empower me at that point, because all of a sudden I was earning all this money. I could afford my own place. I didn't need him. And also like the validation that all these men were like telling me that I was beautiful and all this stuff, which was really strange. Yeah. Because I did not see myself like that. I saw myself as a disgusting, horrible, ugly creature. Yeah. Because that's what I had been told that I was.
Is that from the relationships wearing you down and your confidence? And
and like all of a sudden, like I was like, apparently I was like, sexually appealing to the opposite sex, and I thought that was a revelation. I thought, oh my God, really? And so like the girls would taught me how to like put makeup on and wear heels and stuff, and I was like, this is cool, like. At that point in my life, that was what I needed.
So I can see with your life at that stage, it would almost be intoxicating.
It was.
It was. Look.
And I heard these women talking about stuff that I'd never, like I was so sheltered. Yeah. And so like I had, like they talked about like things that they did, like, oh, we're going to Queensland for the weekend to go and work. And I was like, what? They're like, yeah, we go up there and make like $5,000 over the weekend and come home. And I was like, holy shit. Yeah. Like you can do that? Like this is crazy, and it started to give me a glimmer of hope that I could design my life to be what I wanted it to look like. Unfortunately, at that time, the alcohol and drugs had already taken.
So you were working in the bar. At
Well,
that stage.
I worked in the bar not for long.
And then someone said, well, you can make more money stripping.
Yeah, it was actually a customer.
Yeah. Fair enough.
It was a customer that would sit there at the bar every night and say, is this the night you're going to cross the bar? Is this going to be tonight? Right. And I was like, no, way. Like,
Yeah.
no.
Did you? And when you started working at the bar, did you separate yourself from the girls that work in the dancing and stripping?
Yeah.
And
Like we were.
I'm a barmaid. I don't do that.
Yeah.
Is that the?
Yeah, it was a bar. I was a barmaid, and I was like quite happy to, but I was fascinated.
Yeah.
And I was amazed
Yeah.
by the confidence. Like these girls were going up there, right, and dancing around, and the physicality and the confidence to like in this beautiful lingerie, and I just thought they were so amazing. And I never saw anything about it that was degrading or unnatural. I just thought it was so incredible, and I was just amazed by their confidence, because the low self-esteem girl in me was looking at them and going, holy shit, you're incredible.
Well, how did you get yourself to the point you had the confidence to get up there and strip? Like,
I got really drunk.
Right, okay, that's always helps,
I
doesn't
got
it?
really drunk.
Yeah.
And then one of the girls like basically walked me through it, and I was wasted.
Yeah.
And I don't even remember it. But so it started out by just drinking a lot and fake it till you make it.
Right,
Yeah.
okay.
Basically.
And then you got the confidence that,
Yeah.
you know,
The confidence came through like getting bookings and stuff, and you're like, oh, well, obviously like this is working, so I'll just keep going. Like if I hadn't have got bookings, I probably would have gone back behind the bar.
Yeah. And so the type of money that you're making, but like if you're in working in the bar, are you doubling your money working as a stripper, or
No, like quadrupling.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
So like way more.
Temptations there, and then the lifestyle.
Yeah, like there's no limit to how much money you can make. It's however many hours you want to show up.
Yeah.
You work, you make money.
Did you have a short-term plan or a long-term plan? I'm going to do this, I'm going to,
No.
So
No.
you were just living for the moment.
Yeah, like at that point, I think I mentioned like the nihilistic mental state. Like I didn't really think that I would live past maybe my 30s.
Right.
Like I never thought about my future. Like I was very in the moment.
So it's going to be a good time, not a long time.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was my motto.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I used to say to people, like I'd say that, I'm here for a good time and a long time.
Were some girls there working to, pay off a house, or did they have if they had that plan, did you see anyone actually stick to it?
Yes, I did. There were women who did buy houses, raise kids, go to uni. There was lots of them.
Yeah.
I thought they were amazing, and those women made me believe that I was doing the right thing, even though I wasn't doing what they were doing.
Okay, so you got some women that you could look up to that were doing the same thing as you're doing, but they were doing it for a purpose.
Yeah, and I was
had
saying,
a goal.
see, this is a legitimate profession. Like, I'm fine. I'll work it out later.
She's putting herself through uni to be a doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm just here getting pissed every night and taking my clothes off. But like in my head, I was like, I'll work it out later.
Yeah.
That's a tomorrow problem. It's not a right now problem. Like I had this kind of, I don't know, delusion that I knew everything would always work out.
Yeah.
I didn't think that, tick, 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 life's passing me by and you're just wasting yourself. Like I didn't think like that.
Did it change your view on men?
No. I don't know. It's a difficult. I've got a difficult relationship with men because it's been a journey, So
They're very simple creatures.
I figured that one out.
Oh, right.
What I figured out, I think, what I thought I figured out at the time was that I felt like I was behind enemy lines. So I felt like I understood men better than most women ever could. I thought that I had men figured out. And I thought that men were just
behind enemy lines in the work that you were doing, or
the conversations that blokes have when they're just with other blokes.
Right.
I was witness to those conversations.
So you're privy to
that behaviour.
Privy to what the blokes actually do.
But not blokes, just these type of blokes.
Yeah.
There's not this is the thing. I learnt later on in life that that's not what all men are like.
Yeah.
That's just what the pigs are like.
That's what
men.
you're exposed to.
And I thought that was all men.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, they abuse you, they berate you, they treat you like shit, and then when they get together, they are just disgusting.
Yeah.
And I just thought, well, I may as well just utilize this knowledge and what I can do and just get my money.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until
because you are really. You might be up there dancing and there's the blokes down there making their smart-ass comments and carrying on like dickheads.
Yeah.
But you could almost look at them going, you're laughing at me, I'm making money, look at you, you dropkick.
Yeah, I couldn't give two shits who you are or what you do. Like, I remember I was horrible to some of my customers, and like they would still pay me.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, this is great. It was
Yeah.
almost like edging on that dominatrix vibe, even though I never went there. I probably would have made a great one, but
Take out all your anger.
yeah. But yeah, I did. Like, I was just no nonsense. Like,
Yeah.
F you, pay me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, okay.
that was it.
And
yeah.
you travelled overseas as
Yeah,
well. So
yeah.
how long were you in Brisbane and working in Brisbane, and what inspired you to go overseas?
I think I left Brisbane. I started dating a cop. That's
Right.
what inspired me
Oh,
to go.
that's where life goes bad.
No, I was only
Like
joking.
you've made some mistakes in life, but Jesus, you date a
No,
cop.
he was an ex-cop when I met him,
Yeah.
but still. Yeah, no, I went overseas about 2009.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And I lived in the UK, and I travelled. I danced in the UK and Spain, and like did a bit of Europe and stuff like that. And then it was dismal over there. It was really bad.
as in that environment, the working in
Yeah, the
clubs
money.
and-
So they got really badly affected by the GFC. Like we didn't
Ah,
in Australia.
yeah,
We were
yeah.
insulated from it a little bit,
Yeah.
you know. But over there, like no one had money. It was hard.
yeah,
Yeah, it wasn't a good time to be a stripper. So,
right.
no.
And that was, but I read in the article, in a couple of articles, and I think you said it, yeah, half joking, but I just drank my way around Europe.
Yeah, no, that's literally what I did. Yeah.
And again, that was just partying, having a good time, and I'll get some work here, get some work there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And how did you get work? I'm just curious, like, from
there
there,
was-
can
there
you go
was-
over with recommendations? Or?
No, you just rock up.
Yeah.
And you just start working. Like
Right.
they just basically take a look at you and they're like, "Yep, you'll do." And yeah, start tonight. And you're like, "Okay."
Okay, so you don't have to turn up with your CV.
No,
Yeah.
there's no CV.
Yeah.
I think you take your clothes off and that's your CV.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. It is what it is.
But I
Yeah.
had oh my god, I had this. Started working at this one club, and it was run by this like really aggressive lesbian. And she was full on, like she was like a standover person. Like it was full on. So I ended up leaving there, and I went to another club, and you know it was more comfortable because it was just like, I don't know, the devil, you know, like these seedy
Yeah.
guys. So I went and worked there. She kind of scared me, but yeah, it was the money wasn't good, but it was enough to survive.
And in that type of world, were you seeing some very dubious type characters? Because
Yeah. Oh yeah, like
and I'm not just talking the men that are coming in for the audience. I'm talking the people that are running the clubs and that.
I witnessed a lot.
Yeah,
I won't say too much, but I witnessed a lot. Like I witnessed, you know, crimes happening in the open.
Yeah.
I've seen people get shot,
Yeah.
stabbed. I've seen people like physically assaulted. I've seen like you know, famous people, lots and lots of famous people come
Yeah.
through and do crazy shit. Even police. You know? I had some customers up in Brisbane that were coppers, and yeah, it was
Yeah.
like all sorts. So yeah, you've seen all sorts of crazy shit
Yeah.
in those places, and you become numb to it, you know.
How do you process that? Because you would really see the side of life that you go, and you know, when you're saying people getting flogged or bashed or shot, that's what goes on in those
Do you
clubs.
know when that alleged shooting happened in Butterbing, allegedly?
Yeah.
I was pissed off that night
Yeah.
because I knew that I was going to miss out on money.
Right.
I was like, I don't really give
So
a
you sensitise. So
thank
what
fu-
if
could
someone's
you
shot?
have done that somewhere else?
Yeah.
I'm working,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So I was pissed off about that.
So how long were you overseas for?
I think I got back to Australia in November 2011.
Okay, so what age are we talking, roughly?
I don't know. I'm not good at maths. 20 something, late 20s.
Okay,
Yeah.
that'll do. So you've got back. Have you still got a game plan, or
No, it was mid 20s. Yeah. So I guess the game plan was just, oh, well, I'm home and
Yeah.
I'll just keep working. And
Yeah.
so I went to the Cross.
Just before we go on?
Yeah.
Did your family and friends know what you were doing? What was their reaction?
They did find out. I told my mum what I was doing when we were on a plane on the way to Vietnam, so that she couldn't.
That's good. She can't.
She can't go
scream
anywhere.
too
She has
much.
to process it. So I knew my mum would just sweep it under the rug and whatever. So she had a little cry on the plane, and my mum's like very creative. She has a creative mind. So she started creating all these scenarios in her head about what I was really doing.
You were a ballet dancer.
Yeah. And I said, Mum, when was the last time you went into a strip club? And she's like, oh, I've never been in one. I said, so what are you basing this on? What are you basing your ideas on? And she's like, oh, well, I don't know. TV.
Oh, a burlesque dancer.
Well, she thought like it was way worse. She thought that I was like doing God knows what. And I said, Mum, it's not that bad. Like, just calm down.
Yeah.
So, you know, I tried to alleviate her fears because she always thought that I was lying to her, and I can see why.
Yeah.
So when I said I'm working in it, you know, as a dancer, she probably thought I was doing way worse shit than that.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Whatever, Mum. Like,
Yeah.
just whatever.
This is what I'm doing.
Yeah. And so, so I told her, and my dad's funny. Like he supports me no matter what I do. My dad is my number one fan. Like when he's a taxi driver, right? When I got out of jail, he would tell people, like if he met someone who'd from jail, he would tell people, oh, my daughter did 2 years in Dilwini, like it's university or something.
Yeah.
Like like I graduated. Like he's so funny. Like
You gotta love your parents.
and he never had an issue with me dancing. He would always be like, how was work last night? Oh, that's good. Like he wasn't judgmental.
Okay.
He's not that sort of person.
Yeah.
He's just very open, and he just supports me, and he's cool. But he would tell people where I was working, and I'm like, you've got to stop doing that. Like, I don't want people turning up at my work being like, your dad told us.
Dad told us you're working here.
Fucking
yeah,
hell.
good, thanks, Uncle.
Yeah.
John.
It's like, can you not? Like, it's not that sort of thing. Like, yeah. But my dad's funny. He's just very, he doesn't judge.
Yeah.
He's just a cool dude. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Now you've come back and you've started working around King's Cross.
Yep.
And that's 2011.
2012. So I'm working in the Cross at this time.
So this is before the Cross has been cleaned up.
This is before the lockdowns and all that shit.
Yeah.
Like it was wild. It was pumping. It was crazy every night. Like that fishbowl place was open across the road there, and the Bada Bing was pumping, and the other one down the road, what's it called?
Oh, I don't know. Bada Bing.
Yeah, Bada Bing, and then the other one.
Work. Yeah.
The other one was Showgirls.
Oh, Showgirls.
Yeah, Showgirls was pumping, and like it was just crazy every night. So yeah, it was busy. We were making a shitload of money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And who was the crew you were hanging out with socially? Was it girls that you were working with?
Just girls that I work with. Yeah. So basically, I moved back to Australia with one of the girls that I was working with in the UK. Yeah. And so her and I just toured, like we did the King's Cross, and then we would fly up to Townsville, and then we'd do like, we did Mackay, Karratha, like all like fly in, fly out stuff as well. Right. And we just would follow the money, really.
Okay. And like Karratha up in northwest, up in the Pilbara.
Yeah, we did. Oh, I don't think it was Karratha. No, we did. Yeah. We did some outposts.
Yeah.
And we did like Townsville. We did Mackay, Rocky.
Yeah.
Places like that. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And did you enjoy the lifestyle?
Yeah, I did for a while.
How many hours would you put in a week just to get a sense of?
I think you'd start work at about 9 p.m.
Yeah.
And then you'd finish at like 4 in the morning.
And would you be doing 7 days a week or?
No, 5.
5 days a week.
5?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I worked about 5.
Yeah.
I would take nights off when I was too hungover to go to work.
Yeah.
That was the only time I would take time off.
So you were drinking the whole way through this, and drugs?
Yeah.
Yep.
So I started taking drugs like the drug use got really bad in about 2014, 2015.
Like the cocaine?
Yeah. So I started using coke when I got back to Sydney, like pretty bad.
Yeah.
I never really was into it before that. I was just drinking. But then got introduced to it when I was in the UK, like tried it a couple of times and was like, yeah, this is all right. But I used to get the shits with my UK friends because they were obsessed with coke. And I was like, you're boring when you're on coke. Like you take a few lines of coke and then you stop talking. The table goes quiet. Everyone's boring. I'm bored. You're all boring me. And so, yeah, I didn't really like it. But then when I got back to the UK, when I got back to Australia and I started using it, I was really using it for a reason. It wasn't just that I love it because it makes me look cool and it's trendy. Like I was using it so that I could stay awake, drink more, and stay coherent.
Right.
And also because at this point I'd
So
started.
the effect, you could be drinking, then take a line of Coke, and
Yeah,
that kept
but
you awake. And
on a physiological level, like I was addicted.
yeah,
You know, my brain had already done the addiction thing, and
Yeah.
the dopamine receptors had clinged onto this substance, and that was it. I was
did you ever have a time, a moment where you wake up and think, I've got to stop this? Like
every day.
Right. Okay. So you weren't totally unaware that it's
No,
it was a destructive
it was
path.
every single day I would wake up and I would like delude myself into believing that I could have a different life. Like I was like, this has got to stop. This is not who I am.
Yeah.
I don't want to wake up like this every day. I want a different life. I want a normal life. And there was glimpses of it, like when I would have a couple of days away from work,
Yeah.
and I would go up to like the fruit and veg shop and I'd like get all this healthy food, and I'd go
Feeling
home and
good.
make myself like a salad. I'd come back from the gym and I'd make myself like a really healthy meal, and I'd feel like happy for a few moments,
Yeah.
and I'd be like, you know, it's almost like I'm a normal person, and then I'd go back to work and it would all start again.
Did you have anyone in your life that sort of pulled you aside and tap on the shoulder and go, "Hey, Ali"?
No.
Yeah.
There was one moment I remember in Melbourne when I was fly out, and I was in Melbourne, and I'd had a particularly big bender, and I was staying in a hostel.
Yeah.
And I woke up on the floor of the hallway of the hostel,
Never a good thing.
and never a good thing. And I remember being like, you know, this is bad. Like, this is getting out of hand. And I rang my mom. I think I rang my sister, and I was like crying down the phone. I was like, I think I'm an alcoholic.
Yeah.
And my mum like laughed at me. She was like, don't be so ridiculous.
Yeah.
And it was like her way of kind of saying, you'll be okay. Just dust yourself off and keep going. You know, like I don't think she was intentionally trying to minimize what I was going through, but I think that was just her way of kind of saying, it's all right, just get up and, you know, keep calm and carry on, basically. But I was like, that was the extent of my support network. And my support network didn't have the tools. They didn't understand, you know.
Yeah.
So that was it. I just dusted myself up and I kept going.
Well, did you have any relationships during this time?
Not really, like little,
Not significant. Yeah.
ones, like just little like flings and stuff. But just I was so over men by this point. Like I was just like.
Did you lose respect for men? Seeing them every night. Yeah.
I don't think I ever had respect to start with.
Fair call.
To be honest,
Yeah.
like no, I don't think I ever respected them.
Yeah.
I actually always thought men were. I had these really strong opinions, and I think at some point I even wrote them down. Like I would have these, and I would, you know, start spouting off at the mouth my theories about men, and people would listen and kind of like nod and probably thinking, she's insane, you know. But I had these really strong opinions. I'd be like, you know, the reason why they are the way they are is this and this and this, and like it was only based off of my experience, and my experiences weren't great, you know. So later on, I realized how narrow-minded that was.
Yeah.
But it took a while, you know, for me to broaden my scope and meet different types of men.
Yeah.
In order to understand that I had a very limited view.
Based on what you'd been
based on what I'd seen,
exposed to.
Yeah.
Now, you got into that, and this is a well-worn path that happens so often where you start using drugs and you start selling drugs. And I hear, and I've sat opposite people, not just here in police stations and friends and everywhere, that, I'm not really a drug seller. I'm just, I'm just supporting my habit. Here, I'll buy this for you. I'll get that for you. And sooner or you wake up to the fact that you are actually selling drugs.
Yeah.
When did that realization hit you?
It never really hit me. Like, I never thought of myself as a drug dealer.
Yep.
I just thought of myself as, I don't know, someone who was making a little extra money on the side to fund my habit. And I thought it was really smart. I thought it was really smart because a lot of my customers that would come into the club, they wanted drugs.
Yeah.
And I couldn't be running around trying to find it for them.
Yeah.
And I couldn't be waiting for them trying to find it so that we could go and have our booking. I would just thought, well, if I just bring it, then it's like bang, bang.
Cut out the middleman.
Yeah. Here's the booking. Here's the ATM. Like go.
Yeah.
And here's the drugs and let's go.
Yeah.
It was a time saving. It was also like, that there was that product went hand in hand with the booking. So a lot
When
of
you say the booking's like a private
yeah,
thing,
so like when guys would come into the club, a lot of the time, like they wanted to party, which means they want a stripper, they want champagne,
Yep.
they want cocaine.
Yep.
And if you could get those three things, you're about to make $5,000.
Right.
So, you know, if you don't have those three things,
Yep.
They'll go somewhere else, or they'll spend half the night trying to find it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, let's just get the drugs, let's get the champagne, let's get the girls, let's make it happen. I was like, I don't know, just what's the word? Like I was trying to just, yeah, cut out the middleman. It was never like, oh, I'm going to sell drugs and buy myself a Lambo. Like that wasn't the thing. It was very much like, I'm just going to get what I need to do my job and get my money. And obviously, you know, I was using as well. So it just made sense. I never really thought like, oh yeah, I'm doing something really highly illegal here. It was just so normalized.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but it's almost like that was the world that you lived in. And
yeah, everyone did it. Like it was literally part of every booking.
Yeah.
So it was so normal. And my world, it was extremely small.
And I would imagine you would have seen people in those party groups that are looked at by society as very decent people, high-profile people.
High-profile people, people that you see on the telly every day. Yeah, those sorts of people. And it validated to me that this was like a really openly accepted behaviour that just wasn't spoken about.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, if everyone else can do it, then I can do it too. And that really no one cares that I'm doing it. Like when I found out that I was, under investigation, obviously was after my arrest, I was really surprised that they had bothered to follow me and that they had bothered to put any resources into following me.
That's it, yeah.
Because I was like, why me? I'm just a nobody selling a few bags of coke here and there. Like, what the
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they go after like some actual drug dealer? I was really surprised. Yeah. Like I had no... I didn't actually think of it like that.
When did you get a sense that you were under investigation, or was it the knock on the door, or did you...
When I got a sense of the largeness of it was when I was like properly under arrest and in Surrey Hills cells, and I got in front of the judge for the first time and met my pathetic lawyer for the first time. Like that was when I realised, oh shit, I'm in some trouble here. Yeah. So,
but and I know from talking to you and that it was a knock at the door and the police arrested you.
Yeah.
But did you have an inclination? Did you have a concern at any time that you might come unstuck?
No. Yeah. No, I was too deeply into it at that point. Like I think I'd even been warned by someone that you need to stop like doing what you're doing. And I was like, whatever.
What, as someone you worked with? Or?
Yeah, I got told by like someone I work with. But I thought they just told me that because they wanted to like make the money. Right. Which is actually what's happening, by the way. But it was also more like, well, no, I'm not going to stop because this is how I make my money. So like I wasn't listening, and I was too dependent on the drugs and the lifestyle to get out. Yeah.
King's Cross in those days, how did you compare that to other places you worked in Brisbane and that? Like it was pretty wild in those times?
Wild. Like I went to Vegas during this time, and we went to strip clubs in Vegas, and we got taken around to all these clubs, and the owners would take us around as like VIPs and stuff. Yeah. And I was like, where are the other rooms? Yeah. And they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, well, like, where's the other rooms? Like the book where the actual parties happen. Yeah. And they didn't know what I was on about. And this is Vegas.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm like, damn, this is nowhere near as fun as back home. Right. Cross was like wild compared to Vegas.
Because the bikies were in there, and there was different gangs in there, and we won't have you talking about them. We won't get you into
not interested in talking about that.
But it was wild times.
It was.
Around that time, I was in the gang squad, I think, and I spent a lot of time up around the Cross with OMCGs were causing problems up there and that. Did you feel at risk or vulnerable at all, or
never?
And why is that? Was there a code that they just left the girls alone, or?
Well, they were our customers and our friends, and some of them had relationships with the girls, and they were never a threat. Right. They were never a threat. They were our peers, I guess. It wasn't
so they were your... Yeah, I understand what your colleagues in the
colleagues, work, and the ones who were the threat, who I really didn't like, was the bankers and the investment banker types. Those guys, they would come in with their white Amex or gold Amex or whatever it is.
Attitude.
That they were holier than thou, and I really disliked those guys. So I would try and rinse as much money
Could you
as
throw in a couple of barristers in there as well?
Oh, there was some, but I'm sure, like, yeah.
But that type, that sense of entitlement.
It was it was gross. I didn't like those guys. So in comparison, the bikies and the crims were much more humble and much more easy to speak to and much more easier to get along with. Like, they were actually, like, decent guys in comparison to these, twats in suits that thought they were better than everybody. Like,
do you put that down to the fact that they thought they were better than everyone?
Yeah.
So a sense of entitlement.
Yeah.
And they didn't even humanise you, perhaps. Was that
yeah. To be honest, yeah. Like, I remember one particular guy, he was so drunk and, like, he was raving on about how he was the CEO of some, I won't say which firm, some giant finance firm.
Yeah.
And he wasn't the CEO, but he was drunk and he was telling everyone he was. And I was like, whatever. So he got his card out, his work card.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, well, if you're the CEO, then you won't mind me putting, like, $15,000 worth of dancers through. And he's like, no. And so we went and did it. We went and put, like, it was a lot of money through. Yeah. It all cleared. Everything happened. He had the best time ever. He had a great night. And then a couple of nights later, he comes back. And he's sort of saying to the owner, like, begging him, saying, I'm going to be fired. Like, these girls robbed me. And the owner's like, mate, they didn't rob you. You were waving that card around like you were the CEO, and there's video footage. And if you don't want me to put that on YouTube, then you better turn around and walk out right now. And he did.
I would imagine he would.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that's interesting. But that is the side of the world that you would have seen.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So with the drugs, the knock on the door, and we'll get close to finishing the first part, because the second part I want to talk about your experience going to prison and how you've turned your life around, because I think we've got an understanding of, and you've been very open how you've got to that point. But when did you first become aware that you were as in the cops were onto you?
I got a text message. So I woke up with a massive headache, which is not unusual for me, tossing up whether I was going to go into work or not, because I would usually only not go in if I was too hungover to work. And by this point, like, my alcoholism and drug addiction was pretty bad. Like, I would get the shakes and everything, and I would have to drink a couple of bottles of wine just to get stable enough to be able to go to work.
Yeah.
So I had woken up and I was shaking and I hadn't eaten in a few days and I was a bit and I got a text message from someone that I worked with, and it just said, "Raid, don't come in." And that's when I knew that it wouldn't be long before they'd come for me.
Yeah.
Because I thought, oh, well, who are they looking for? It's probably me. Yeah. So I went and, flushed all my drugs down the toilet. Yeah. And, not long after that, I got a knock on the door. And I thought, they said, look, you're under arrest. And I was like, oh, yeah, like, it's fine. Like, a few bags of Coke, whatever. I'll go and get my phone and my handbag and whatnot, and I'll be back probably in a few hours.
They'll charge you, bail you.
I didn't know. I
didn't even know the process.
I was delusional.
Yeah.
And anyone who's been in addiction understands delusion.
Right.
There's a difference between delusion and denial.
Right.
Delusion is like your brain creates an entire alternate reality where it'll give you supporting information just to keep your craziness safe. So, like, I was delusional to the point where I believed that I would get taken down to the police station. They would see that this was all a very big mistake, and they would let me go home. Yep. Like, that's how delusional I was.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah.
That's a thought that was going through your head. Well, that in fact didn't happen.
No.
And when we come back for part 2, we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
But look, thank you for your openness and honesty about your life at this stage. I know it's probably a difficult subject to talk about, but I think it's really impressive, and we'll get into this in part 2, how your life has even spiralled further down, hit rock bottom, and you managed to turn it round. So when we come back in part 2, we'll talk about that. Thanks, Ali.
Thank you.
Cheers.